Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the League of Ordinary Gentlemen proudly brings to you the Fantasy Football 5. Introducing Balls to the Wall, Brian Roberts. No nickname, Jake Ruth. And your host, JT, the commish. So how we doing, gentlemen?
I'm a little disappointed. I lost to Jordan after everyone picked me, but Andrew, and we all called him stupid for it.
Ooh, and I think Ryan might have called him an idiot.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
I lost to a ginger who has no soul, so it wasn't a good weekend.
It doesn't get much worse than that.
No, it really doesn't.
How you feeling, Big Rob?
Why we even have to ask
Yeah,
him?
he should be feeling good.
His bench
It's
outscored
1
half of our starting
It's
lineups.
1 week. Let me bring up the year that Jordan beat everybody
He's a ginger.
and lost in the first round.
He did. But, dude.
Michael, what was Michael going 9 times out of 10 when Michael makes the playoffs? He's coming up from the back end, giggity, and he ends up making a deep run in the playoffs.
Real deep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many times – we've talked about this before. How many times is the number one – and granted, we're jumping way ahead this week 1. But how many times is the number 1 seed won?
I think that's one of the reasons we created this podcast is so that we can have a kind of track that a little bit better. Because honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Can't either.
I mean, you've won – what? Both of y'all won 3. How many times were you number 1 seed when you won?
Can't remember.
Never. I've never been the number 1 seed, ever.
I think one year I had a really good year and kind of dominated through, but I think that was also when we were still doing maybe categories, and I might have won it one of those years like that. So can't exactly remember.
I think I was the number 2 seed the year I won it.
Well,
I think
Brian
Ryan was 1.
just from week 1, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Anticipation.
7 players that scored over 21 points.
Yeah. It was a good week.
I think I had one that scored over that. Did you have any?
Over 21? No.
You didn't have a single one?
No.
That's what I'm saying. It's flash in the pan.
Shit.
Man,
I'll take a flash in the pan any day of the
All
week
right,
then.
all right. Look. To break it down, bring up Mostert's stats.
All right, you got it. Mostert.
How many did he have for the week?
Mostert. So he had 23.1 his stat line.
What's his rushing? What was his
Okay,
rushing?
he had 15 attempts, 56 yards.
That's decent, not fantastic.
He did better than the whole New Orleans
Wait a
running
minute.
staff.
Wait a minute. New Orleans had a bad game.
They won 33 though.
Rushing wise. All right.
Kamara had 2 touchdowns.
Receiving, taking out, I think he had the 97-yard touchdown.
No, it was 70 something. Because he only had 95 yards. He had 4 catches, 95 yards touchdown. I thought it was 76 yards.
Okay, so then you're taking out 7 yards from that.
Okay, so yeah, big play. Okay, that inflates a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, yeah, there's going to be weeks Mostert's going to do that. I'm happy that Mostert was involved more in the passing game as a receiver instead of just because they like to put McKinnon back there.
Yeah.
Who
as a
looked
receiver
good.
back.
I
Yeah,
will say
McKinnon
that.
looked good.
McKinnon did look good.
But if you want to have a solid number 1 guy and not have to be handcuffed, you want your number 1 running back to produce both rushing and receiving.
Well,
So
I'm jumping a little bit real quick. Speaking of McKinnon, is he worth a look in some leagues? Is he worth an addition just because of the receiving back PPR in case something happens to Mostert?
I would. I mean,
Is it worth if you have a bench spot that you feel like this guy's like kind of who we thought he was? And
yeah, it's not going to be a Freeman Coleman backfield or D'Angelo Johnson Stewart backfield, but it's going to be
maybe
like
worth
a
handcuff.
65-35.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jerick McKinnon is one of the most athletic players in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's always been the thing about Jerick McKinnon. And, I mean, he had 3 rushes, 24 yards, 8 yards a clip, small sample size, I know. Had 5 targets, caught 3 of those, 20 yards, touchdown. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, that's who their guy was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, Mostert wasn't supposed to be.
No, and Tevin Coleman really wasn't
They
supposed
let Burrito go for a reason.
He was the chance.
Yeah.
He was the bring him in the training camp, let him see what he does. He was, what was the guy from Green Bay? Had the big game against Detroit. Somehow got a huge paycheck.
Matt Flynn? Oh, God.
He was what Matt Flynn was going to be. You know, buy some time before Russell Wilson can take over the offense.
And Russell Wilson just took it.
He just took
and
it.
that was the right call. Because Russell Wilson is Mr. Unlimited. All right, so let's look. Let's go through some fantasy takeaways, or just some general takeaways from week 1. I'll start with mine. My first one, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, from a playing standpoint, I thought he played pretty well. Now, Joe Burrow was not necessarily like fantasy superstar by any means. We'll pull up his stat line. But my biggest issue with Joe Burrow isn't Joe Burrow. It was the way they managed that game late. Joe Burrow led a freaking down the field, great drive, and could have won that ball game
with a questionable pass interference on
A.J.
A.J. Green.
Yep.
I thought that was a terrible call at the end of the game, and I thought Joe Burrow showed a lot of umph. I'm trying to make sure I use the correct language here, but he led that team, and he was confident when he did it.
He was, dude. He had, he didn't light up the stat line. He had 193 yards passing, threw a pick. Rushing looked good. He had that long rushing touchdown. Finished with 8 rushes, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Dude, I thought Joe Burrow looked good. My takeaway is that your franchise quarterback, because that's what they drafted him as, obviously. He is their franchise quarterback. His first start, they have 7 seconds on the clock. They're in the red zone, and they don't give him a shot to try and throw that ball in the end zone again.
Can we also acknowledge what you were just saying, that is Cincinnati gonna go to the playoffs this year?
No.
So if you lose that game, is it really I lose sleep? If I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it with my telling my quarterback, my franchise quarterback, who's a rookie in his first action ever in the NFL, you're our guy.
Yes.
We're putting the game in your hands, and clearly up until that point, he wanted that.
Yeah.
He took that ownership, and then they kind of rip it away from him, and you even saw his face what just happened when they missed the kick? He wanted the ball, and to me, I want that guy on my team who wants the ball in crunch time.
That's the thing. All right, so say Joe Burrow throws a touchdown right there. The legend of Joe Burrow has begun.
Right then.
He's fourth quarter comeback in his first NFL start.
Confidence that gives that team and that player moving forward, because now the whole team's going to look at the quarterback and say, we got something. We got a dude who wants to win the big game and isn't afraid of winning the big, wanting the ball in his hands. I think you sent a signal not just to Joe Burrow, but to your whole team, we just didn't want him to throw that one. We wanted to bring our kicker out and tie the game.
For the tie. You don't play for the tie. You play
to win the game.
You play to win the game. And they didn't play to win the game. And I'm very disappointed with that coaching staff.
It's Cincinnati.
But it's a new staff. If you're going to win in Cincinnati, you can't do what everyone else is doing.
Cincinnati's not trying to win. Cincinnati never thought they were really going to be in that game.
Maybe not. But I don't know why you don't give him a shot right there. I know it's 7 seconds. But 7 seconds in the red zone is enough for a throw to the
bring a little.
Now, look. He went against the Chargers corners, their D-backs. It's a good group. Now, granted, they're missing their main guy, Derwin James being out. But for Burrow to do as good as he did, his passing attempts and completions, you would want to see a little bit more than 196 yards.
93.
Whatever.
But who's counting?
But so you want him to do good. But basically, they were playing it safe. That stat line right there with the passing attempts, completions, and the yardage. I didn't watch the game, but I think they're basically saying we're going to play it safe on Burrow. Easy routes, nothing too complicated. How many times he throw the ball down the field?
Let's
check it out.
Know? Let's check it out.
While you looking that up, I do want to bring up one thing, and it's a relatable point, even though it's a different. It's not the NFL; it's college football. So last year, I'm a big Tar Heel fan, as we know. It was Clemson, and let me just kind of relate this in, is that we tied Clemson in overtime, and Matt Brown sat there and said, I could bring the field goal unit out and kick the extra point and take the tie and then go to a second overtime. Instead, his freshman quarterback, who had been on fire, he said, I'm putting the game in here. Now, they didn't win the game. I do understand that. But what message did it send to Sam Howell and that team? This is his team moving forward. We're going to win and die by Sam Howell. And I'm telling you right now, if you wanted to send a message, not just to Joe Burrow, but to everyone else on that team and in that organization, we're going to win with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to lead us to victories. And we're going, when the game is on the line, we're going to put it in his hands. We're not going to hand it off. We're not going to try to get a field goal to take it overtime. No, we're going to give it to our stud quarterback, and he's going to march us down the field and win us ball games. Same thing Belichick's always trusted with Brady. Same thing that in New Orleans they've always trusted with Breeze. They didn't say go get me a field goal. They said go win me
Go win
me the game.
Go win this football.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jake, why don't you, speaking of Joe Burrow, rookie in his first NFL appearance, why don't you tell us about some other rookies that lit it up this week?
Yeah, I was really impressed with the rookies this week. Usually I feel like we got 2 or 3 starting quarterbacks that are kind of first-year guys. Instead, this year we had just Joe Burrow with Tua kind of still getting a break, I guess waiting for his opportunity, which I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to go with Fitzmagic. He usually starts the season strong. I think he threw, 2 interceptions. Their offense looks stagnant. I mean, they're going to need something to energize that program. The other ones in San Diego, who, again, I wasn't very impressed with their offense. This was one where Ryan might be able to talk a little bit more to us about it, but it was where I'm waiting for Herbert to see what he can do. But let's also jump to running backs. All right. Who was the leading rusher this week in the NFL?
The leading rusher was a rookie, CEH, Edwards-Helaire.
And he went for 138?
128.
Was it 128?
Yeah.
And had a touchdown. Looked explosive.
Very good.
Explosive between tackles. What makes him so difficult is he's like 5'5" going between the tackles. I know I'm exaggerating his height a little bit, but when you got 6'4" bigger lineman in front of you, you can't see him. And he's so Mighty Mouse power. Like you're not going to get him on first contact or with an arm tackle. He looked really good between the tackles. He was explosive in the open field. I was really impressed with him.
My bad. I hate to interrupt you, but you were right. 138. I was wrong.
Well, 138.
25 for 138.
Yeah, and then you even kind of keep looking at rookie running backs. I talked about Swift. I thought Swift in Detroit, where Kerryon Johnson, my bad start of the week, looked absolutely awful. Other than Adrian Peterson, who seems to never age, just running downhill over people. I thought Swift, I think he's going to be the guy moving forward. I would not be surprised at all if it's a Peterson mentorship for Swift moving forward. He had 1 touchdown, had an opportunity for a second. He dropped it, was right in his hands. And then, one of the guys, again, prime time, so you get a little bit more exposure to him. What about Jerry Jeudy's footwork? Holy crap. He made every corner like second guess which way he was going. They had no idea on his releases the entire night. His footwork in and out of breaks was incredible. And he should have had a bigger game, had 2 big drops that were right there off his hands. So, again, if he caught 4 for 8 out of targets for 56 yards. 4 for 8, I like 8 targets, especially with a guy with that much after the catch potential. I think that's something big to use with guys that are that elusive. He can make a 10-yard gain into a touchdown in a matter of seconds. One missed tackle on a guy, and he's going to break it off for a very, very big gain. So I was impressed with him.
I like Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy looked good. Like you're saying, release was fantastic. What got him was just 2 bad drops.
2 bad drops. And
you're also talking about that was probably the biggest defensive game of the week.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Back and forth. I don't know I think part of it was good defense. Part of it was just kind of stagnant offense.
Yeah.
Well, here's the big thing with Jerry Jeudy. He's a rookie in Denver. Mm-hmm. And, he's been in Denver for a little bit. He's getting used to the atmosphere. But as far as, his whole life playing football, he's never had to deal with an atmosphere that he's going to have in Denver. And not a fan atmosphere, because obviously. But like the actual altitude that he's going to have to play in. Yeah. It's a growing pain. Yeah. Jerry Jeudy is going to be one of those guys that he's going to probably do some stuff for you beginning. Mm-hmm. But towards the end of the season, when he finally, his lungs can change, the capacity of them starts to really grasp playing in Denver, he's going to be a guy that I think will be who's got Jerry Jeudy?
Jordan.
It's Jordan.
Jordan. Oh, yeah. Jordan has Jerry Jeudy.
I think Jerry Jeudy could be a guy that could, if Jordan, and I'm not saying that's where it's going to be, but if Jordan is one of those teams that's on the cusp, Jerry Jeudy late in the season could be one of those guys that comes around and starts really helping him out, and could be one of the guys that could make him go from being one of the 2 teams that's going to miss the playoffs into maybe a team that sneaks into the playoffs, Or if he's up in the standings, could be a team that could, when you and we all do the same thing. When you get to playoff time, you got a week to look at everybody, and you don't. It's the first time you look at them, and I think what they've done for the past 3 weeks. You look at them and you think this is what they've done the past season. You go into week 4, week 5 of a regular season in fantasy, you're just thinking, this is who I got this week. But if you got a guy that's making a run towards the end of the year, those guys are going. You start looking at that fantasy team and you're thinking, this guy's hot, and this guy's scary. That's how I felt when I saw Michael. Michael, not Jordan. Jordan had number 1 seed. I'll never forget Jordan had number 1 seed, and Michael beats Jordan, which I'm sure Michael loved. And then that next week, it was projected close, but I knew I was just dead man going into the game
because you thought Michael was hot.
Michael is a very attractive, he's a very handsome man. He's got a very nice smile.
I think when I look at receivers sometimes, I always look at, can they create separation? And that's in a multitude of ways. Can they burn you? Is it just going to be a deep threat, which is a little bit of a worrisome guy, but is he able to, in the 5 yards, like I thought Wes Welker was incredible at this. At 5 yards, he could break you either direction, and he created a yard or 2 of space.
Yeah.
Created separation where he was always seemed open. And that's what Jerry Jeudy, I know he dropped a couple. I understand that. But he got targeted 8 times because he was getting open and he was finding gaps, and then he can make plays afterwards. And my other rookie receiver, I'm going to hit at real quick. I've said it earlier today. I would not be surprised at all if Dallas has 3 wide receivers that either hit the 1,000-yard mark or close to the 1,000-yard mark by the end of the season. I think that you're looking at Amari Cooper and Gallup, 2 legit receivers on the outsides. They're going to attract a lot of attention. And watch out for CeeDee Lamb, because if I've learned anything about watching him at Oklahoma, the dude just makes plays. You get the ball in his hands, and somehow he's going to make plays. So, again, watch out for him, who caught 5 out of 6 targets for 59 yards in week 1, which ain't bad numbers, but I could see those increasing, especially if we ever figure out what the Dallas offense is going to be.
If Dallas doesn't know what the Dallas offense is.
Potential. Like they have potentially the best offense in the NFL. Like up there with freaking Kansas City. Like they have.
Wait a minute.
Hold on now.
Let's look at receivers they trump at.
They win the receiver battle. They win the running back battle.
Is this because I said something about Cleveland the other day could be one of the best offenses?
I'm not bringing that up. I thought maybe you would just
let it ride.
Put that in the closet.
I'm just waiting on my boy to turn it around. Waiting on Baker to turn around.
Which we'll get to, but I agree with you. You're looking at 4 playmakers at the wide receiver and running back position. Dak, who is maturing and has played well, and I don't think the offensive line's bad. It's just like, do you realize what you have? Like, have you watched what Kansas City did on Thursday and how dynamic their offense was? Like, be more dynamic.
The more things change for Dallas, the more things stay the same.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
They kept the same OC that was stagnant with that offense anyways. Like, I would have brought someone in that was like, we're going to spread it, we're going to air it, we're going to hit the gaps when everyone spreads out. It would have been fast-paced, hit them hard, hit them fast, run the score up in the first half, and then we'll just kind of coast in the second. And instead, it was like stagnant. Let's play to our competition or play to the game. And maybe we shouldn't sell the Rams short, but it was a little disappointing within the performance.
That game had the highest over-under in Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's combined 37 points. That's neither team really.
It should have been scoring 37 points each team.
Right, exactly. All right, Brian, what's your biggest fantasy takeaway from week 1?
Saquon Barkley.
Oh, Saquon Barkley. What
for the number 1 pick. The number one pick.
That's a good point. The number 1 pick over the consensus number 1, Christian McCaffrey, which I know, Brian, you're not disappointed.
I'm not disappointed, but all right.
Let's take
look at it as an overreaction, all right? But it's damn Saquon Barkley. You could blame the offensive line, but Christian McCaffrey's not working with anything better.
Nah.
And Saquon is known. I mean, he's a brick wall with a lot of speed. So you're 15 carries, which I think is the biggest problem. 15 carries for 6 yards. 15.
So what should that number look like in that
40?
You're probably right. You're probably
40?
right.
Look, You talk about Jake earlier being a Carolina guy. I'm a Duke guy. I would love nothing more than Daniel Jones to be the prodigal son to take the Giants back to the Super Bowl. That's what I want. But Daniel Jones is going to be nothing more than the game manager. He might have a couple big weeks where he could put up 300-400 yards. Fine. Daniel Jones ain't there yet.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is he's the Brad Johnson of Tampa Bay Rays. That's what he is. He is to the New York Giants what Brad Johnson was to Tampa Bay. You give Saquon that ball 30 times if his ankle's twisted. That's what you do. And what is it, 15 times?
15
for
times
6
yards. Now,
this is where I'm going to get on Saquon.
Okay.
It's not about that. With 15 times, Saquon should be getting more than 6 yards. I don't care. I don't care what the offensive line looks like. Who did
play Pittsburgh?
Good
Pittsburgh
defense.
has
Good
the best
defense.
defense,
Good defense.
arguably the best defense in the NFL.
And they looked aggressive.
Okay, so, all right. Is that defense, if I would have told you Sunday morning, 11:59, Saquon's going to get the ball just 15 times, we can talk about that. And then I'll say, but with those 15 carries, he's getting 6 yards against Pittsburgh.
You would laugh.
Everybody
I would
would
laugh. Look,
If Saquon doesn't get 50 yards rushing, I'm considering that like a awful week. Like something's wrong in the fantasy football or the football world in general.
I agree.
All right.
We'll talk more about Saquon Barkley when we come to my matchup, because last night I thought I was dead in the water. I didn't have a shot. Saquon, James Conner, both going, and Daniel Jones all going. I thought I was dead in the water, and I come out of that baseball game and realize, oh, I got a shot at this. All right, so
but you look at Saquon, and everything I've been reading is everybody's giving Saquon excuses. Maybe there's a hidden injury somewhere, hips bothering him, knees bothering him.
I mean, he looked good when he caught the ball.
Yeah.
He just didn't have any running room when he got started. Which, again, I don't want to just say it was on the line, but
No, and let's go ahead and nip it. Saquon's not going to go 15 carries for 6 yards. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
If now we go through week 2 and Saquon doesn't double, triple his yardage, quadruple his yardage.
I was about to say he had 6 yards. Right?
if he doesn't 10 triple.
Yeah, if he
60 yards.
If he doesn't 60 yards, I would say okay, Saquon's trending up. Now Saquon comes out.
I would still be disappointed with 60 yards if it was the number one pick.
60 yards is a hell of a lot better than 6.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, that's how bad of a game it was.
Yeah, it was bad.
We're talking about going 10 times what he
got
just had.
handed to us by Easton Randolph, and
I don't know what. Excuse me.
Tevin McNair was still able to get some yardage out of it. So if Tevin McNair can do it against Easton Randolph, Saquon Barkley can do it against me. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, God.
Then you switch it over to what did Daniel Jones do?
He threw a bad pick in the red zone. That was –
200
you can't do that.
231 yards, 1 touchdown and an interception.
His pass looked exactly like Big Ben's, except for Ben threw Big Ben threw it to a wide open Juju, who was the only one going to the other side. Meanwhile, Daniel Jones threw it to like 8 Steelers that were all just waiting, like, what's going on?
Look, I'll stick with what I said last week about Daniel Jones over Baker Mayfield, like why I would put him in my lineup, because Daniel Jones is not going to be good, but he's going to screw
match Baker Mayfield.
He's going to screw around and at least be decent fantasy.
Don't mess up. 279, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's not. I'm not going to look at that stat line. I'm not going to go into halftime because I don't know what the stats were at halftime. I'm not going to go into halftime, look at my coach stats and say, listen, fellas, let's take away from Saquon. I think Daniel Jones is feeling it. Let's throw the ball. They're not going to do that.
If you ever do that, I'd fight the coach if he said that.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if I'm going to tell him to throw the ball more, I'm going to have some design plays for Saquon to get some more receiving yards.
You don't tell a Saquon or Christian McCaffrey or Zeke that they're not getting the ball 15 to 20 times at minimum rushing and then 5 to 10 times receiving. You got to get those guys the ball.
All right, let me ask you one more question on Saquon before we move on to the next takeaways.
Yeah.
So, Steelers held Saquon Barkley to 6 yards rushing.
Yeah.
I mean, do you outside of those like top 5 running backs, do you have to think about benching your
running back,
your top running back
against Pitt? It's Pitt.
I mean, like Melvin Gordon is like that. That Denver's playing Pittsburgh. Do you bench Melvin Gordon?
Week 1 is always this idea of like, do we get too paranoid over a week? Like, this guy didn't do much. Should I just trade him, drop him? What should I do? And then the next week he goes for 100 yards and a touchdown. I guess what I'm getting at, don't overreact to Saquon, or do we sit there and say no, he's a number 1 or number 2 pick? That kind of game's unexcusable. Or do we sit there and say like don't overhype the Steelers, or like crap, if my running back, especially if it's not like my first round pick, if it's my RB2 or my flex, do I take them out and go another direction? I think that's something I would consider. If it ain't my RB1 and I have another option where I can move a flex guy there and then move a receiver, tight end, whatever, into the flex, I think
You gotta think about it.
I think them and it's still the 49ers. I mean, they didn't allow for Drake to go off either.
No, they
Because
didn't.
Michael kind of had I think Drake was his number 1 back over there.
Let's see. We can check that.
Because, I mean, he had Connor get hurt, and
Connor
then
got hurt. Yeah,
Barkley
Drake was his number 1 back.
Barkley didn't do well. What did he have, 14?
Barkley. Let's take a look.
I feel like Drake had a okay game and he got in the end zone, and that kind of helped.
Yeah, it
Okay.
definitely did.
I might be wrong on that one.
All right, so we'll continue our conversation on Saquon as we go. Let's take a look at our. Let's see, I do want to check on Kenyon Drake.
Drake had 13.5. He had 60 yards rushing, rushing touchdown, and then 2 receptions. So 13.5. But his other 2 running backs, who we all agreed with before Sunday, Connor got hurt, had 2.7, and then Saquon 9.6.
Yeah.
So Drake against the 49ers, which was also like 49ers had one of the best rush defenses last year. I mean, that's not a bad performance by Drake.
No, not bad. All right, so my secondary takeaway, and I'll leave this one. This will be pretty brief because I don't think there's too much to say. Carson Wentz had a great first half.
Incredible.
Great first half.
Tight end use, hitting some
Oh,
receivers.
man.
The offense looked.
Offense
good.
was humming.
Andrew Sperry was just ear to ear.
Oh, God. No, I know he was. But in the second half,
I felt like he threw it more to Washington.
Washington football team took over that game. That Washington football team defense took over that game. How many times was Carson Wentz sacked?
It's a great question.
I've got the answer.
I know Chase Young had to get him at least once.
So how many total sacks?
I know. So now I'm going
Washington
through just
football
Chase
team.
Young putting on enormous pressure. I think that changed a lot of the game. I'm going to say 4.
All right, 4 sacks. Mr. Robert, how many sacks did the Washington football team
Wait a minute. Don't put me in a row bear.
Well, you were trying to cheat.
Robert.
First, I'm not trying to cheat. If I want to cheat, I'll cheat. It's my birthday week. I can do it.
It is your birthday.
Happy
All right, so
birthday.
how many sacks did the Washington football team defense? I think they should just stick with that name. Guys.
8? No, they should stick with that name.
8 is on the dot. Good thing you looked that up.
Didn't look it
yeah,
up.
you lied.
On my mother's life, I didn't look at it.
Whoa. Whoa.
They sacked him 8 times. Now, here's my biggest thing. They sacked him 8 times, but they're still – Carson Wentz is – and, again, Doug Peterson, I have to fault for this as well.
It's Philly.
They're still chunking the ball downfield. Like, they are still throwing deep shots when the pass rush is getting to Carson Wentz. The offensive line cannot keep up. This is – look, when Miles Sanders was ruled out, I said, hey, I'm starting Boston Scott. Boston Scott's going to have 100 total yards and a touchdown. Boston Scott did get banged up during the game, exited for about a quarter. But he should have had that. He should have had a good game.
Yeah.
Because if the pass rush is getting to Carson Wentz, he can't throw the ball downfield.
Draw. Just let him get upfield. Yep.
Something. But, dude, I'm telling you, I watched that game, and it is deep shot after deep shot after deep shot.
2 legit tight ends, and they don't go to him. They went to him in the first, and then it's abandoned ship. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I know there's some controversy going on with Ertz there and the contract and stuff like that, but I felt like he went after him in the first half. Ertz did have a drop or 2. He did. Yep. And so that maybe played a little bit of a role, but I'm with you, man. Like, especially with the lead, don't be trying to hit home run ball after home run ball. Let's work some clock. Let's work some underneath routes. Let's work some screen. Let's get the running game established. I was very disappointed in the second half performance of Carson Wentz just because, I had Ertz in another league and I did daily fantasy where I started Carson because I thought he was going to have a big day. Mm-hmm. And he started on that fashion, and then it was like he went in negatives in the second half.
Yeah, let's not talk about daily fantasy. I put $10 in, lost $10. All right, Jake, what's your secondary takeaway of the week?
I'm changing this one up a little bit. I'm going to say how good really is either Tampa Bay or New Orleans. A lot of people had them both as top 10 teams, and the offense is disappointed. The leading rusher for New Orleans was Lat Murray, and he had
15 for 48.
not that impressive. I think you said Kamara was under 25 yards.
Yeah, Kamara was 12 for 16.
I know he had some touchdowns, so that kind of saved his fantasy
Almost
value.
had 3, and he stepped out at like the 1-inch line.
Yeah. Brady didn't look that good. I don't even know what the receivers did at all in that game. You'd have to give me some of the receiver stats for Tampa.
We can do that.
And then while I'm also talking about disappointments real quick, what about even Baker Mayfield? Brian over here already brought that up.
Not talk
well, let's kind of talk about it. Odell Beckham with his massive kind of drops in this game, and not that impressive. And JT took him in the 4th.
Not Baker Mayfield. I'll take OBJ.
Oh, I thought OBJ. Sorry. Anyways, major disappointment. And then I'm going to make Andrew Ransdale's night right here. I was ready to just, even as a Carolina fan, write off Mitchell Trubisky. What is this guy doing? This looks awful. And how about that 4th quarter comeback from the Bears? The touchdown to Miller late in the game with a great pass. I mean, in some ways, again, I don't think he's really the guy. Like if you're trying to build a system around the quarterback, I don't think it's really it. But I thought for a guy who's they traded for Nick Foles, who has a massive contract other than going and getting Cam Newton. So you felt like he wasn't even going to have the job. Let's also face the fact that everyone that was drafted after him in that draft has done incredible. They're actually the 2 highest paid players in the NFL now with Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So this guy has kind of like been given up on for the most part, and he led a great 4th quarter comeback and had some really good passes. So freak out meter on Tampa Bay, New Orleans, are they as good as what we all anticipate them to be, or is it a little bit more they're not quite where we expected? And then what about the Bears' big comeback? I think that's something we kind of bring up too.
Yeah.
To touch on that, the Tampa Bay thing, I'm looking a lot at Philly when everybody said Philly got the dream team.
Mm.
You get a bunch of new guys in the system. I don't care how professional they are. I don't care if it's Brady. I don't care who it is. It's going to take time. I'm getting fired up. It's going to take time. It does. You've got to work that in. So with my main concern would be more on New Orleans than it is Tampa. And Chicago, the Robinson trades that started coming out, him wanting to trade or not.
That's true.
But now he's saying he doesn't. Yeah, by the way, I saw that right before we started.
Right. So either way, until that gets sorted out, I don't know. I just don't know. Nick Foles will end up coming in the playoffs. If the Bears made the playoffs, and they'll lead to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's what'll happen. But I just, for our friendships, pray that the Bears don't make it.
No, they won't. Trust me, they won't. All right, Brian. What's your last takeaway from this week?
If you have anybody from Atlanta or Carolina offensively, it is going to be a good fantasy year for you. And it comes down to both of them have
NFC South fantasy outlook right here. What 2 NFC South teams?
Okay, I got you.
What you think about that before you? That's kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Maybe a little bit of favoritism.
He's feeling it.
Yep.
He's feeling it.
NFC South favorite.
You got 2 defenses that are terrible, but the offenses, and granted this is a stretch, but both offenses were high powered. Matt Ryan spreading the ball around. If your quarterback sucks and you need one, Matt Ryan is the guy to go get.
At 300-yard receivers.
Yeah, and you're doing that with 2 wide receivers. You didn't have just one guy take over. This is a Stafford and Calvin Johnson. This is them spreading the ball around. So they're going to be playing from behind a lot now. And Atlanta running back, probably going to be a problem.
Gurley did have a touch.
He did. I got my questions about Gurley and longevity for a season.
You've always had questions.
I will say this.
I know. Well, you know me.
The second game that I thought was on the Vegas highest number for over under was the Seattle-Atlanta game, because both of those defenses are not very good. It turned into a shootout. I will also say that a lot of Matt Ryan's fantasy points and even Calvin Ridley's came when I think they were up 31-14 or maybe even more than that. Seattle had a pretty big lead in the 4th, and then he threw a couple. I know he threw one to Calvin Ridley late, that kind of helped. But it was kind of shouldn't say garbage time, but time in which
they had to
throw it.
off.
Yeah, and so consider that within the analysis as well.
Yeah, and then Carolina, I think you made some good points.
Robbie Anderson had a big week. McCaffrey had a big week. The DJ Moore thing will end up playing out a whole lot better than it did week 1.
Joe Brady. And again, let's also new coach, college football coach, new OC, college OC, new quarterback who hasn't. I mean, I know he started some in New Orleans last year, but hadn't been named the guy in I can't remember how many years since his knee blew up in Minnesota. And so, I feel like sometimes it's kind of like even what Miami was saying going into it. They didn't know what film to watch. They didn't know what to expect. Do you watch LSU's film and say, is this what Joe Brady's going to do? Or, do we watch Teddy Bridgewater with New Orleans last year? Was that who we're getting? And so, I'm a Panthers fan. I hope the offense continues in this direction. I hope they continue to adapt week in and week out. But, it's kind of like a rookie pitcher that comes out and does really well because you don't really know what the kid's got yet. But once you kind of see a little bit on them, or a hitter, people figure them out and adjust to it. Is that the case with the Carolina offense?
That's a good point. All right, so let's transition to some big injuries from this past week. So I think the biggest injury in terms of severity came from Marlon Mack. I know. Now I can't. I was going to sing that all year because, dude, I like me some Marlon Mack, and Marlon Mack had a very good first quarter.
What was his stat line at when he got hurt?
This first quarter stats. We'll pull that up. His first quarter stats looks something like 4 rushes. Let's see. Yeah, 4 rushes, 26 yards, 3 catches for 30 yards. Marlon Mack getting known to be.
4 rushes were better than Saquon's 4.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good first quarter.
Yeah.
Non-contact injury. Turns out torn Achilles, out for the year.
Who knows about his career?
One word answer. Who you taking for the rest of the season? Taylor, Hines.
Taylor.
Yeah, I'm going Taylor.
That was a couple more words than one. But okay, taking Taylor. All right.
You going Taylor as well?
Yeah, I'm going Taylor. I think Hines has a role.
Yeah.
But I think Taylor.
The most surprising thing is they called him brick hands coming out of college, and he actually got most of his fantasy points off receiving.
He did.
But, yeah, that was a big one. I'm going to go to what I think was the biggest injury of the week. The first-round receiver, in some leagues, the only first-round receiver. Devontae Adams might have sucked in, and, man, did he look good. But Michael Thomas, high ankle sprain. Now, let's talk about the injury a little bit before we talk the fantasy value. They said a couple weeks. They're not willing to put him on IR yet, but high ankle sprain can sometimes go 4 to 6 weeks. And the biggest issue with a high ankle sprain is you can start walking again pretty normal, but when you try to explode in and out of breaks is when that injury will really flare up. For a guy, receiver, in and out of breaks, explosiveness, they always talk about high ankle sprains for receivers and running backs are the worst injuries because sometimes they're lagging injuries. They take a long time to recover. What's your thoughts? Is this a big loss for New Orleans? Where do you look at for production to be picked up? It wasn't like they had a big receiving day. As you said, Drew Brees' stat line wasn't that impressive on Sunday anyways for what we expect from Drew Brees.
I think from a wins and losses standpoint, they're going to be okay. So they have 4 more games before their bye in week 6. They've got Vegas on Monday night. They play Green Bay at home on a Sunday night, at Detroit, and then home against the Chargers
with a great rush.
Yeah, I still think the Saints I think they win 3 of those 4 games, then they'll lose to Green Bay, but I do think they beat Vegas, Detroit, and the Chargers. If they let Michael Thomas sit through the bye, he comes back week 7 against Carolina, and that's 5 weeks. And I think that if New Orleans is going to be like if they're going to go deep in the playoffs, they're going to need Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
So I think that's my takeaway from that is they might as well just let him recover and come back after.
It's New Orleans. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, they will. All right.
Also defeating maybe the biggest threat to them in the division. That was a big victory to do without Michael Thomas.
Oh, very much so.
Because he only had, 2 receptions when he kind of went out. So
yeah.
I think that's pretty big as well.
All right, what's our next big injury on the list?
Going running back again, James Conner.
So what's it looking like for James Conner?
Well, it's an ankle injury. It's not a severe ankle injury. The only concern could be, is it going to be a nagging ankle injury? It's a sprain. I don't know if it's high or low. He didn't look all that great up into it, but they're not canceling him out for this week, from what I'm reading. So Tomlin, either way, he's not going to give you a heads up till maybe Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
They're going to see what he looks like in practice. They're do they really have a huge choice?
Snell was the 4th leading rusher this week.
Snell looked good.
He had over 100
But does
yards.
that look like that's going to be something long term?
Let me pose this to you. Every time Pittsburgh's had a major injury, look at the running back that's came in for him. So
Stop telling people to go pick up Snell.
well, I mean,
that's what I'm doing.
This is what the conversation's all about. I mean, like, I remember Willie Parker, who couldn't even start at Carolina, comes in and has an incredible year on an injury-based Pittsburgh team. What about even James Conner? I mean, the guy had a good college career, but, battled cancer and had some question marks behind it. Le'Veon Bell, leaves and in comes James Conner, and everyone's like, oh, it ain't going to be the same production. Has a huge year. So what I'm getting at is sometimes I don't know how much credit we should give to the running backs compared to the system that just allows running backs to be successful in it. Kind of like a Shanahan offense with running backs. Does it really – I don't really care who you put in there. Zone blocking scheme that he always has makes the running back somewhat successful in it. So I think it's a big injury. I don't want to downplay what Connor's been able to accomplish. But Snell would be a guy that I'm sitting there saying he looked good in those times.
All right, that's enough from Jay. You gotta stop talking about Benny Snell.
Maybe it's gonna be a short-term ad. It's James Conner.
Well, there's only gonna be
James
Conner. Right. He's probably gonna get banged up again.
It's football.
Now,
if he wants to go out there and be a daggum, Putain, then he can. But
okay. Don't tell anybody about Benny Snell. That's all I'm saying. All right, so next big injury on the list is the second tight end taken off the board, George Kittle. So George Kittle, right now
who's got George Kittle?
I do.
Wait. So you lost your number one running back.
No, I have Derrick Henry.
You lost your number one. Derrick Henry's flashing
Look,
the pan.
look,
You lost your number one tight end.
I didn't lose him. He's day to day.
Yeah. So George Kittle, here's what they're saying right now. They haven't put a lot out there. Had a knee sprain.
He did return in the game.
Kittle says he feels fantastic.
Yeah,
of course he is.
I feel fantastic. Kittle said, fantastic, not an issue at all. I don't know how many times you got to say fantastic, but
when you're lying, you're going to say a lot.
Apparently, it feels pretty good. So right now, it's just kind of up in the air. The 49ers said they're monitoring the situation. It's just one of those things we're supposed to check back.
Let me go ahead and give you a weekly recap. He's limited throughout the week. He practiced full on a walkthrough on Friday, and the dude plays on Sunday. All right. The reason I say that is because I remember when he got hurt in the game. It was first half. He played in the second. Anytime they come back in the game that week, I'm guaranteed they're going to sit up. And they lost, so they want to bounce back week. Be ready for that. Lost to Arizona. That was a big one.
Arizona.
We'll get to them in a minute. Yeah, that was a good one. What about Le'Veon Bell? The Jets were big on him. Said he was in the best shape they'd seen him in. He came in shape. He was a guy who some people were speculating that the Jets really started to fall down, that he could be traded to a contender and could be a big piece at the trade deadline in the NFL. And then hamstring injury. I freak out over hamstring injuries. I don't like how quick they can flare up. They're very hard to heal. And they said multiple weeks. They actually went ahead and placed him on the IR, correct? So he is out for at least 3 weeks is what I think I read on that.
IR this year is 3 weeks.
So at minimum 3 weeks. And then when he comes back, how long is it going to take him to get into a rhythm? How long is it going to take him to get healthy? I mean, these are all things that we need to be considering with him.
Very true, very true. Le'Veon, that was always going to be a tough call.
Yeah.
I mean, if you draft him, you just kind of didn't know what you were going to get exactly, which is why he fell to the 6th round. But this definitely puts a dent in his potential comeback season.
Yeah.
After last year, just not really living
kills his trade value.
All right, so most of our big injuries off the list. Looks like we got one more notable receiver to talk about. Brian, who we got?
We got Devontae Parker, and this is basically piggybacking on what Jake just said. It's hamstring injury. It's 2 spots you don't want to have hamstring injuries as your running back and your wide receiver. So I don't know. He was getting targeted, went 4 for 4, so he was catching the football, 47 yards. They're leaving it up. It's day to day on whether he's going to be playing next week. I wouldn't expect, even if he does play, I wouldn't expect a whole lot out of him, especially against Buffalo.
Would you start him?
Who's got him? Andrew? Yeah, start him. Let me look at Andrew's team
I think
real
his
quick.
value, while Brian looks that up, his value goes up a lot if Tua comes in anytime soon.
Yeah.
Tua's a player, man.
Yeah.
If I know some things about like people that come from programs like those, they usually find ways to win games.
That's a good point. All right, so our last injury of the week, we'll make it short. Wasn't a. I don't want to downplay this player, but kind of looked at as maybe a potential breakout, a potential Blake out. It is.
I want to punch you in the face.
It is official. We have lost Blake Jarwin of the Dallas Cowboys, starting tight end for the year, torn ACL.
Opens up for those receivers.
Yeah, I mean it's very, very. You can definitely see a pathway to having 3,000-yard receivers at this point because
and red zone targets. It's also
red zone targets.
Who does that benefit? Zeke or the receivers? I don't know, but I just know
it's all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Benefits all of them. All right, so we're gonna look at a little bit of matchup review. So I think, what do you think? We should start with the best team, right?
Yeah, let's just talk about Roberts.
Killed everybody, right?
The week that he
All right,
had.
well, let's get off my matchup, man. You want to talk about a bad matchup, man? Me and Michael, we stunk it up. All right, so let's look at
victim of the system and old Scorp.
Victim of the system. I was looking around. There we go.
Scorp's going to be the person that has to talk to old Brian this week.
Let's talk to O'Brien. O'Brien will listen.
O'Brien's going to be calling a lot of people about the ass whooping he handed out. So.
He is. All right, so
Godly.
let's look at let's just go down to their matchup. All right, so this was initially our matchup of the week. Projected 122 to 129. Brian, man. You had a good week. You had a good week.
And the worst problem is he could have easily gone over up to 190. I mean, you throw Jamison Crowder in there for Godwin, and that's our Robbie Anderson. And you got an additional 12 points there. Did you have another tight end? Yeah, Greg Olsen. Hey, the Greg Olsen guy.
Now wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Let me go ahead and get this out of the way. So I've been thinking about it since then because I listened to the pod. Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
On my way to meet up with y'all. And yeah, my stats are going to be way off, but I still stand by in the efficiency.
Yeah,
let's go with the efficiency. Can I bring that up real quick?
Yeah,
especially with Russell Wilson, that dude he just keeps making plays. He had 30 fantasy points, I believe.
Mr. Unlimited.
That's what Greg Olsen is.
Mr. Unlimited.
He is.
He's Mr.
He's the Iron Man.
Limited.
He's
Mr.
the Iron Man.
Limited.
Yeah, he's got a foot problem, but who doesn't?
I do. I have plantar fasciitis right now.
See?
Good point.
But Greg Olsen went 4 for 4, 24 yards and touchdown. I will take that every week.
I bet you will. You Greg Olsen guy. Let me ask you this question, Brian.
Yep.
Who was the player you were most surprised with? Most pleased with, I guess.
Most
maybe.
pleased with Mostert.
Mostert?
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I underrated Mostert when I drafted him.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. I took him. He was there. I knew Mostert was good. Didn't pay a whole lot of attention to him last year. Knew he was all right. But he makes me feel better about drafting Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
He really does. Now, it's like we talked about earlier. His stats are a little blown up. It's a little one reception made a huge deal with him. But if he can receive the football, if he can be a catching back and kind of hopefully take away from McKinnon's son, I'm good with Mostert going forward.
Brian, just a little, insider stat. You had 5 players outscore Scorp's top player. Anybody want to guess who Scorp's top player was?
I know who Scorp's top player was.
Who was?
I'm not going to get into it anymore.
It was Alvin Kamara with 21.2. You had 5 players score over 21.
I hope he feels better about Kamara going forward.
Because he didn't even have a lot of rushing yards. He got all the end zone.
16. Yeah. It's 16 rushing yards.
I'll take the TDs.
Which, all right, backtrack, full circle. If there's any problems with Michael Thomas moving forward, Kamara could be more of a receiving back.
Kamara could definitely. All right, so Brian, I think we all feel really good about your team. Let's look at Scorp's team. Do you see? Do you see, say, David Montgomery? So that's his RB2, David Montgomery. And not that he had a terrible game.
I don't know.
Rush yards,
I don't know if he'll
10
have Montgomery in
yards.
next week. I think he might roll with old Malcolm Brown a little bit there.
Well, he's
got Miles Sanders.
He's also got Miles Sanders.
But
Miles Sanders
what's Miles Sanders? There's a decent hope that Miles Sanders plays. A decent hope.
I really want Miles Sanders to do good for him. I really do. I really, really, really do.
I think you better put Malcolm in there at flex then.
Yeah, I would imagine that this coming week is probably going to be Kamara, Sanders, and Malcolm Brown.
If Sanders goes.
Yeah, receivers.
A little bit of a letdown.
DJ Moore.
Yeah, I'm not worried about DJ.
I wouldn't worry about DJ Moore.
Oh, I think he would be happy if Allen Robinson got traded.
Yeah, potentially. DK Metcalf looked good.
Yeah, well, Russell Wilson looked good.
Yeah.
He was the number one quarterback this week.
Zach Ertz, you got to imagine he has more than 18 receiving yards. He did have a touchdown, which saved him fantasy-wise, but you got to imagine,
I hope Philly figures something out.
Carson Wentz, again, you're right. If Philly can figure something out, Scorp's team's going to be fine because he's got 3 starters from.
Scorp's going to be fine. If I play Scorp again, it's not going to look like this. Guaranteed.
Well, Brian, if you're putting up 170 points multiple times,
about 1 week.
Here's the big thing I walk away with is that Brian's team has that potential. Like, I don't see him having a guy that, consistently would ever be under 10 points. Like, right now your weakest position is your RB2 or maybe tight end.
Yeah, because
you could put Mostert up there and then you could kind of switch that. Right. But God, leave
I'm going
Brian.
to find a way to get Crowder in that offense if he's going to get targeted.
I told you that was one of my favorite picks that you had was Crowder with the amount of targets he's going to get in a PPR.
If you want to get Crowder in a lineup,
you can just trade him all in. I have no receiver.
There's nobody on my team that's ever untradable.
Christian McCaffrey.
You send me a trade good enough, and I'll trade Christian McCaffrey.
I don't have the manpower.
That's the thing, man. Like, all right, we played fantasy baseball 1 year and had Mike Trout, traded Mike Trout.
True.
If you send me a trade good enough,
I ain't got anything to give you that's good enough for Christian McCaffrey. All right, so Brian, huge win. 60. Let's see, just a quick math. 66.3, largest victory of the week. Scorp, I do see him bouncing back a little bit.
Scorp will do just fine.
But Brian, I think the biggest thing, Jake, I think you'd agree with me. The biggest thing, Brian has depth.
Yeah,
Brian has depth. All right, let's look at our next matchup of the week. Jake, we're going to go with you and Jordan. So let's see, you and Jordan. Jake, you were projected to win this 133 to 127. Close matchup.
Made some bad starting decisions.
What's the one that you regret?
I took out Taylor and put in Johnson. Now, even with Taylor, if Mack had stayed in, he was still going to get more opportunity. Carry-on did absolutely nothing. So I lost 10 points there. That hurt. That would have won me the week. And then, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have changed anything else. Kittle being a little banged up. And then my receivers, I mentioned that when we did the draft review. Huge disappointment there. I really was hoping A.J. Brown would kind of emerge. He would have got more targets. T.Y. Hilton had some really big drops when I watched it. He had 2 that were first down catches right off his hands. Indianapolis offense in general looked very stagnant, which was a little bit of a disappointment. And I'm also going to say maybe no preseason games with a new quarterback and a new system. Maybe that had something to do with it. The people I walked away feeling good about, first off, Russell Wilson. He was the number 1 quarterback this week. He spread the ball around. He made plays. He just looked like the consistent Russell Wilson. And then Zeke. Yeah. He should have got more carries, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that because Zeke's on my fantasy team. I don't see Zeke not go 5. Year. I got really upset because I had Zeke last year, and I'm like, the dude doesn't hardly ever not go 5 yards. Yeah, he's a powerful runner. He's elusive. He finishes going forward every time.
He jukes 6 guys on one play.
And so I guess like what I'm kind of getting at is if you get inside the 20 and he's not getting the ball every single time, I feel like you're failing as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Is this going to set up to be Pittsburgh 2.0 with Le'Veon Bell?
With Zeke?
Yeah.
He signed the big extension already.
He did.
And I think it's more about play call. I
But
mean,
with
Le'Veon
these-
went the heck off while he was in
He did,
Pittsburgh.
but with these running backs that I don't know are on Zeke's level getting these huge contracts. You never know. Like
Yeah.
I don't think Dalvin's as good as Zeke.
No.
I don't think Kamara's as good as Zeke.
I think Zeke's
He's legit a top
I don't
three
think
running
Joe
back.
Mixon's as good as Zeke.
No.
And some people might even argue that Zeke this year could have a better year than Barkley.
I would say that.
Based off of week after one, I'd agree.
Well, I
But
mean, even the threat of the offense, like even compared to McCaffrey in some ways, like he's got a probably better offensive line, better receiving core, better quarterback. Like that's just going to open up that much more in the box for him.
Yeah.
Now he might not get the same opportunities because those other guys are like the guy, while he's got 4 guys around him. But I like those two. I like Taylor moving forward after the Mac injury. I got to see something from my receivers. That's what the biggest disappointment. And on the contrary, where Jordan kicked my butt at.
Let's look at Jordan's receivers. So Michael Thomas, again, goes for 3.2, 3 receptions, 17 yards. He gets rolled up on late in the game. Michael Thomas was non-existent. But, I mean, golly, he came through with those other 2.
And the one that I questioned, so Jordan, yes, we understand you beat me, and we all picked me to win except for Andrew, in which Ryan responded,
You're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Yeah.
You made us all look like idiots. Congratulations.
I got 2 words. Juju!
Yeah. Juju, I questioned because I said, I didn't know if he was ready.
Would punch you on the face.
I love, dude. I
didn't know if he was ready to be a number 1 receiver.
I've been talking up Juju because, again, like, I forgot how good his season was from 2 years ago. Granted, that was with AB.
And Big Ben.
Yes.
And last year
that's
had
my thing, is that, dude, last year that offense was probably the worst offense I've ever seen outside of maybe Jimmy Clausen.
Wow, you went low.
Yeah, I went there.
Bring up old stuff.
I went there because that was a bad offense. Their defense really carried
They
them.
drafted 7 quarterbacks. What do you want to do?
But Juju looked really good. Julio's. If
Julio can never score until he's on Jordan's team somehow. But now we all know.
That's some
no.
truth.
He didn't have a touchdown.
He didn't?
He didn't have a touchdown. He had 9 receptions for 157
That's what I told
yards.
you. That's what I told you. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to Matt Ryan and what I said about the NFC. They're going to be playing from behind so much, and we all know, they don't trust their running backs there. They're going to throw the football.
Yeah, they're going to throw it.
And if they can successfully pass the ball with just those 2 receivers.
What's Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl? How outlandish is that? 110.
Right now?
Yeah.
7, 8. I mean,
Pretty
defense,
outlandish?
No. That they can make it. 7 out of 10.
Oh, so likeliness.
Yeah,
they could be the best team in the AFC.
If the defense holds as true as it is right now, but defense will take you to the Super Bowls for so many times.
I do want to make this, banking on what Brian just said. Defense can win championships. We've seen that. It gets colder. It gets more difficult to have the spread offense and throw it all around. So let's also say, who's the team in the AFC you got to knock off? Defending Super Bowl champs.
Baltimore. Baltimore's in that division.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Baltimore's in that division. Who's going to win that division?
Probably Baltimore.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh's good, but Baltimore's got. I mean, they
They're
can hit you so
dynamic.
many different ways.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at that. So Lamar Jackson, Jordan's starting quarterback. Lamar Jackson looked like the former MVP. Yeah, dude. I mean, he looked crisp. 275 passing, 3 touchdowns, 45 rushing yards.
Mark Andrews. I want to say
Mark Andrews was like a stud, dude. He looked like a.
He kind of looked like tight end 1 after this weekend.
He did. I thought I was at the gym today, and I was really thinking, man, I maybe should have waited.
Yeah.
Tight end.
Well, people slept on what Mark Andrews did last year. Mark Andrews had a good year.
He
did.
a very good year. People thought that.
Good year.
I thought, I'm like, nah, he ain't repeating this. No, he's gonna exceed that. I was very wrong.
That's a hungry player right there. He's
Yeah.
a very hungry guy. Wants
He
to be
is.
better. And when you but you can tell watching them press conference and everything, like those guys have fun. Football is fun, and they know they're good.
It's the culture the quarterback
Now, I
brings.
don't know if they're as good. I do know they're not as good as Kansas City is offensively, but the beautiful thing about fantasy is it doesn't matter if they can beat Kansas City to go to a Super Bowl. What matters is can week in, week out, these guys put up points, and that's what they're going to do. Baltimore's going to put up points. Defensively, that division outside of Pittsburgh, not that great.
Not great
at all.
Another rookie running back in that one, J.K. Dobbins.
On my bench.
Had a good week.
He did. He had a very good week.
Big conversation going around right now is Mark Ingram. He was a little
Cut
upset.
him. Cut him.
I know fantasy-wise,
Cut
we'll see what happens. Sometimes when a guy like him complains, they really force feed him the next week. Or like you said, they're like, if you're going to bring distraction to this team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't think they should cut him, but he is, turning 31 this year.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, we're turning 31 this year, aren't we?
Big guy turns Thursday.
Yeah, you do.
God, he's getting
Early
old.
Birthday.
Happy birthday!
Put me up there in that football field. I'll run for 3 minutes with Saquon Barkley's carries.
Well, I mean, you ain't got to do much with him. So let's look at, before we leave this matchup, Jordan's running back. So if there is a weakness to Jordan's team, it's not a receiver. It's not at quarterback. I think tight end, like Tyler Higbee, may figure it out. Gronk, I don't know.
Here's the problem, even on his bench. I mean, he had Sammy Watkins, who is a week 1 magician. But after that, 2.1, 8.6, 4, 7.6, 9. It's not like I look at his bench and like, man, you have some guys down there that can easily step in there.
That boy's going to play waiver wire a little bit.
He's going to play.
Now, the beauty of the Michael Thomas injury is it makes his Sammy Watkins decision a whole lot easier.
How so?
Because he don't have anyone else to put in up there. Maybe Scott,
I'm-
Jarvis Landry, Jerry Judy. I like the way
Yeah,
Judy
I like
looked.
Jerry Judy too. I don't know. I think
He can make some trades with some
he
of these
could. He
guys.
could. Look, hey, Jordan.
But, you scroll down
Holla
and the
at your
first
boy.
running back name you see is a 5'3" guy from A&T.
Tariq Cohen.
That is your number 1 running back you got on the roster.
Yeah, I
right
mean,
now. It's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. Cohen's going to have good weeks. Cohen has good weeks every year.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to. He's going to have to make some decisions.
All right, so his running backs: Tariq Cohen, 5.7; Antonio Gibson, 5.4, which was his first running back that he took.
I think Gibson will pan out.
He could.
On his
Bill
bench.
Lindsay, who did get banged up, 4 points. Sonny Michel was his highest running back at 9.7. But do you feel good about Sonny Michel?
Talked to you earlier about this. I knew you were coming to me about this. He will not get red zone carries. Cam Newton is
That's the
getting the
thing.
red zone carries.
New England's always been wishy-washy with the running backs. James White always gets in big situations. That's how that's always been. But now your quarterback's the biggest running back in football.
They ran him in the 20 when they got down there.
They did.
I mean,
They did.
he was the guy.
They did.
And, me and Andrew made the bet last week. Aaron Rodgers went berserk over the weekend, and he outscored Newton by 5.
Yeah, that's true.
And it wasn't like Cam lit up the scoreboard. It's because rushing yards, and I had a feeling, I still stand behind this, if he stays healthy, they're going to run Cam Newton 15 times a game, and he'll get red zone carries. And a quarterback that gets in the end zone rushing is a huge fantasy benefit because those are big. You go for 40 yards and a touchdown or 2, and then you maybe throw another 1 or 2. I mean, that's big fantasy outpour.
You know what else the surrounding city of Boston has? More than a feeling.
Assholes.
More than a feeling.
Oh.
All right, so what?
God, I really want to punch you in the face
I
tonight.
wish you would. I wish you would. All right, so let's look at our next matchup, the fantasy phenoms.
Oh,
Rod
Rod.
Bye week, Reitmeyer.
God, poor. Let's just here before we go to Ryan's. Before we go to Ryan's, man. Poor Wright. What about poor Reitmeyer? Like he's got so many injuries, and then he gets another one on Sunday.
It didn't help.
It's Le'Veon. It's like, man, he's got like 3 guys down here on IR, and then bam, here comes another one.
It didn't help.
No Kenny Galladay. Mike Evans
had 1 catch,
was
2 yards,
limping
touchdown.
everywhere.
Yeah, he didn't start him, which was probably a solid move. But you look at Reitmeyer's team this week. Let's look at it from this perspective. Where can Reitmeyer's team outperform what it did this week? Drew Brees had 14.4. Is Drew Brees going to score 14.4 every week? No.
It depends on how long.
It's crazy.
Is Michael Thomas the reason Drew Brees had 14 points?
I don't know.
That's
a good question.
That's a good point. Michael Thomas only had 2.
Tyreek Hill had 13.1. Not a bad game, but
No.
Tyreek can have monster games to carry you a week.
He's Tyreek.
I like the way Ruggs looked. I forgot to bring him up.
Ruggs look good.
He played Carolina too.
And maybe he goes. And look, he's got 2 stud receivers on the bench.
He does. Exactly.
Ruggs
Kendrick
and
Bourne is never
Ruggs
touching his
should.
lineup again.
Yeah, Ruggs could battle John Brown for the flex position, even though John Brown still looked like to be Josh Allen's number one target. Even with Diggs there, I felt he felt more comfortable with him. So, I mean, Ruggs could go to the bench, especially if Galladay comes back, who's a red zone threat. And then I think Swift is probably going to take that job sooner than later in Detroit. So, I think he throws him in where Bell is. I don't think
he came into a hot Ryan Robinson football team.
You think Michael's hot? You think Ryan's hot? We're learning a lot tonight.
Very attractive group of men here, but I think Ryan's team. This will be considered probably one of his bad weeks.
Let's see. He was projected at 128, entered at 127. He had one player go over 21. It was just kind of like. You look at his.
That's solid.
Yeah, solid.
Very solid. Anybody would take that week. 127 points. At worst, a 50-50 shot at winning.
Let's go through the guys who you thought underperformed on his team, then, Brian.
Dak Prescott, I feel like will probably be close to averaging 20.
Okay,
yeah,
so about 2 or 3 points off there.
Now,
Woods had a good week, but I don't know.
I expect that.
Golf is going to spread it. Cooper Kupp looked good. Malcolm Brown got a lot of red zones. So, Woods, 14-9, I would say, is a good week for him.
I think that'll be close to his projection. I would say he's 14-15
look,
every week.
I understand
if
Washington.
Concern on Ryan's offense, it's going to be McLaren.
Well, maybe.
And it's not because it's McLaren. It's because of the quarterback situation.
I don't think McLaren should have started in his lineup. And sorry, Ryan, I hate to say that, but he also knows I'm a big Hollywood Brown fan. Who had over 100 yards receiving, got targeted a lot, didn't get in the end zone with a touchdown there. He's has the best week of the receivers for Ryan. So I think Ryan looks there. Thought Gallup got some good targets. Emmanuel Sanders is a benefactor of maybe the Michael Thomas injury. So Ryan's got options at some receivers where that was his 2 and 3 really kind of underperformed. Running backs, we talked about it. Hilaire had a good week, had just one touchdown, but Pat Mahomes is going to steal a lot of those. Look good. Did a Packers lineman get hurt on Sunday? I feel like a guard of theirs got injured. They were kind of worried about. Again, sometimes with having 2 running backs off a quarterback-driven team, you get worried about, are they always going to get the touchdowns because, like, Rodgers and Mahomes are such big play guys.
Yeah, both are going to have a lot of scoring opportunities.
Yeah.
But
Aaron Jones still going to get the ball.
Get the what?
Bulk.
Get the ball.
He's going to get the ball.
I thought he said ball.
He going to get the ball.
Well, he might get the ball too. My friend, you got to go pick up next week. That's relevant to what we're talking about.
But, I like the 2 scores that he got from those 2 positions. I didn't think that one dude outscored it or if I'm expecting them to get a lot more than that.
Yeah. I think both of those, 19.8, 15.6.
He got one of the 2 bright spots with New Orleans for the week.
Yeah, Jared Cook, dude. I'm going to continue to hate on Jared Cook. That's kind of my thing. I do that every year. He's only done it once, and that was against Dallas. I ain't going there.
How about Chris Carson? A friendly check down to Russell. Russell hit him. I think both of his scores were on receiving touchdowns.
There were 2 receiving touchdowns.
So he had 67. Oh, never mind. That was last week. So he was kind of bottled up. But had 2 catches for touchdowns. Carson rushed 6 times.
Yeah.
Wow. 21 yards.
He
45 receiving and 2 touchdowns off that. So really his rushing attack kind of sucked.
Carlos Hyde got a lot of snaps.
I wonder if that makes – but, at least he was targeted in the passing game.
Yeah, fantasy-wise it worked out. That was his highest-scoring player.
Yeah.
So.
I think Roddy Meyer's also going to trend up.
I think
Who's not trending up?
Joe Biden.
No.
So
I'm gonna call it like it is, fellas.
I think Reitmeyer. I think he has a better week than this. Look, he still outscored me.
Yeah.
He outscored me and Michael.
Let me ask you this: crazy question, a scenario you never thought you would have.
All right.
Going into next week, do you start Allen or do you start Breeze? Obviously, you're gonna start Breeze, right?
I don't. I like Allen's rushing.
So you got Breeze on Monday night against the Las Vegas Raiders.
They look good.
And you've got Josh Allen against Miami.
You got 2
good starts. So you're going to start Breeze, right? But let's say Breeze.
I don't. I actually would start Josh Allen because
Josh Allen's got some rushing ability, and Cam just ran for 85 on him, and Josh Allen.
Now wait a minute. There is a difference between Cam Newton and Josh.
Yeah.
Have you watched Josh Allen?
Josh Allen's really good rusher.
He is a good rusher.
Actually, I think he might be the best rushing quarterback. Whoa, never mind. Lamar, I rescind my statement.
Put him second.
Who do you have second?
I put Kyler Murray over him second.
Kyler Murray doesn't look to run as much.
Sneaky.
Josh Allen looks to run.
Josh Allen does.
There's the difference.
And he threw for 300 yards. Look, I thought you were making a case for Josh Allen.
I'm going to get you, and I had to see which side y'all were going to play. And you were really excited. I thought y'all would Breeze. Oh, you're going to start Breeze. Well, we can start Breeze. Drew Brees.
It wasn't like
he's a 5,000-yard machine.
Yeah, he didn't throw over 200 and lost his number one receiver.
I probably am starting Josh Allen.
I probably would.
If I'm right.
He's starting Drew Brees. What I'm trying to get to that nobody played along with is that, let's say Brees has a bad week this week. 14 points for Brees is terrible. 14
bad
points
week.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But so Brees has another bad week. Then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, maybe I need to start Josh Allen.
Maybe so.
I think I would already be on that one. Josh Allen with the rushing
So you're
attack.
starting Allen this week.
Well, I can tell you this. I checked in red zone a lot this week. The running backs for Buffalo looked awful. The best rushing attack they had was Josh Allen, and then he didn't really even hook up with Diggs yet and had over 300 passing yards. So Cam ran wild on Miami. They look vulnerable in that sense. I mean, I kind of like the Josh Allen, especially with Drew Brees without Michael Thomas. Like, maybe we're wrong on it. Heck, I was wrong on a lot that I said last week, and Brian clearly made the better calls because he scored 170. So maybe we should take Brian's advice. But me personally,
I'm Drew Brees. You just do not.
I probably would start.
Brees.
I would probably start. Well, it's like saying you don't sit Tom Brady, but I mean that dude kind of sucked on.
I say if you're trying to win a championship in fantasy, I wouldn't draft Tom Brady.
Look, I mean,
Brees was late in our draft.
We'll see what Reitmeyer does. I would go to Josh Allen, but
Reitmeyer,
if he
start
stays,
Drew Brees.
If he stays with Drew Brees, I get it.
You start Drew Brees.
All right, so let's go to our fourth fantasy matchup of the week. The second highest scorer, Josh Broach, Autobahn time, 150.
Dang, I love Josh Broach's team.
Andrew Ransdale's Baba Booey question mark team. So this was, I think, at the end of the week, like coming into Sunday's matchups, this was the closest projection, 127 to 125. Broach was projected to lose this, but ended up winning by a little over 20 points.
Broach's team, man. When we did the vote, I voted for Broach for best team. I did because I love Broach's team.
I do too. Josh Jacobs, man. If I traded up, went from 9 to 4, but
should have stayed
at
9.
I'm not saying I should have stayed at 4.
If you had, you would have.
If I had, Josh Jacobs was going to be my guy. The thing was, I didn't like my chances of getting a top tight end, and that's essentially why I traded. But dude, Josh Jacobs.
What about Devontae?
Phenomenal.
He looked good against a bad Panthers defense. The one that I was blown away with was Devontae Adams because I said everyone in the world knows that he's going to get it. They still couldn't stop him. They can't stop him. They knew in the red zone that they were going to throw it to him. They knew on the D balls he was going to get it, and they could not stop him. I mean, just look at Broach's. Like, I want to go through 3 players real quick. Cam Newton, 25.7, or he could have gone with Rodgers for the double up with Adams, which I kind of like that play, 30.76 on his bench. Adams with 34.6. He might have been the high scorer of the week. We could look into that. I feel like he might be. And then Jacobs, 33.9. So, again, I look at it.
7 points off of 2
I mean,
guys.
even his receivers, man. Cooper with 13. Cooper, yes, 10 catches and a half-point PPR.
8 receptions, 92 yards.
Neither one of them with a touchdown.
No.
Imagine if both of them get touchdowns, you're all of a sudden saying he's at 162. And if started Rodgers, he's at 167.
Yeah, Mark Ingram is flex 2.9. Austin Hooper is
That's
tight
the
end
thing, man. You
2.5.
tell me I'm going to have 2 guys on my team get below 3 points. I'm going to be worried.
He's still going to put up 150.
Here's what I'm going to point at on Broach real quick. He's got great quarterback depth. Not going to question that. But then, I mean, you start Edelman because Cam did favor him over Ingram in the flex. Who you going at tight end? I mean, Ebron had a nice catch or 2, but that's where Broach, and I'm not saying anything he doesn't know right now, is that the tight end position is the one he's looking to upgrade at, which Michael Smith has 4 of them, so just go try to trade one for those. But Broach, other than that, man, your team is loaded.
Yeah, it's a good squad.
With
my
maybe
team's going to put up 150 with 2 guys getting a combined. I mean, when you add in the decimals and all that, 5 points.
Yeah.
But if if that one spot is my biggest worry, I'm not going to change anything up. I'll just leave Hooper in there and see if he comes around. And I'm a big Hooper fan.
Well, Joku getting hurt. By the way, we forgot that on the injury report. Joku is out 4 weeks, I believe. So maybe Hooper gets a little bit more, but
Baker, it's at least going to be a confidence boost.
Baker's got to throw the ball to Odell because that's going to be drama.
If you talk bad about Baker Mayfield one more time during this, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Baker Mayfield still sucks.
God dang it.
All right, so let's look at Ransdale's team. So his top scorer, Adam Thielen, 6 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is this what you expected, minus Diggs?
It's Adam Thielen, man.
First game without Diggs.
Let's also say they were getting blown out.
They were. So a lot of throwing.
And Dalvin Cook looked good, but I mean, he's a great route runner. I don't know if he'll get 28 every week, but I think he's a guy that if he don't get 14 or 15 a week, you kind of look at and say, I kind of expected more from him.
Yeah, definitely.
If Andrew doesn't change his team name to Harry Chubb, he's just forfeiting the whole season.
Yeah, that's true. Harry Chubb.
Okay. I can get with that.
Speaking of that, I mean, Chubb, major disappointment. Joe Mixon, and I sat here and said, God, you won this trade so big. And, I mean, technically outscored Sanders, but.
True. But, yeah, Joe Mixon.
What a letdown.
Didn't really look too good. Nick Chubb didn't look good. Kareem Hunt got a lot more work than I was anticipating. I thought Chubb was still the guy, and Hunt was just complimenting him, but it looked like an even split.
Yeah.
That could be a problem going forward.
Not for me. I got Kareem Hunt, son.
I hope that's not a problem going forward.
Well, I mean,
Hunt, son.
We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, that's a big question mark.
Cleveland's a big question mark with me just across the board right now.
I wouldn't want any Cleveland player. I've got 2 of them. But Baker Mayfield.
Mark Andrews, tight end 1 right now.
Yeah. Actually, I think I want to say that Goddard may have outscored him.
Keep talking about the team, and I'll look it up for us.
Check out Goddard because Goddard had a good game. I know it's close between those two, but yeah, Mark Andrews looks like a stud. David Johnson, we talked about a little bit last week. David Johnson looked good, not great, but good.
Mark Andrews 20.3, Goddard 20.1. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So he is the highest.
Basically a wash.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. So Deshaun Watson again, Thursday night game. Deshaun Watson just kind of looked uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway from that. Outside of that, Baltimore's defense got him 20 points. And if you got a defense to get you 20, Baltimore, again, they're going to play Cleveland again. They're going to play Pittsburgh, which that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Another divisional.
What was the final score of the Pittsburgh game? How many points did they put up?
Let's see.
I didn't feel like it was like
2, wasn't it?
We can check that out. 26. Okay. So that's something. Let's go back to Ransdale's team. I think Ransdale had a good week, 129. He outdid his projection. He was right at it. I think it's a good week. Keenan Allen, hopefully, you got to think, hopefully him and Tyrod get on the same page. It's just how much do you trust Tyrod Taylor?
If I'm a Chargers person where I got Mike Williams, the number 2 on that team, and I got the running back there too. I'm just hoping they go ahead and put Herbert in.
I think it's a matter.
He's a bigger arm. Taylor, I mean, he's given opportunities like this before. I remember before Baker took over, that he was doing the same thing he's doing in Los Angeles now. But how about I make a quick comparison? Y'all might get mad at me. Is Joe Burrow Baker Mayfield?
You son of a
bitch. Here's the comparison I make today. Is Gardner Minshew what everyone wanted Baker Mayfield to be?
Ooh.
Just stop.
Because Gardner Minshew, big personality, and going out and getting the job done. And
one big game.
And people are just drawing.
He wears jean shorts.
What's wrong with that? You got George with a mustache. You talked about how you wanted to have a mustache.
Yeah.
You do have a mustache.
I have one.
Okay. We don't have to get into your facial hair.
Just saying,
Facial
let's kind of look at like their personalities in college. Heisman, a lot of pressure put on them. Performs well in our early game, but sustainability. Is it going to continue? We're hoping. I drafted him high last year, and he had a bad year.
No guess.
Okay.
All right, so let's look at the barn burner of the week. Cult of personality versus all Barkley, no bite, and that was
A
very
struggle
fitting
to
name,
watch.
Very fitting name this week.
I was worried about you in that first half.
Man. Oh, look. I'll say this. So I had a baseball game last night. You know, I have a decent lead, but Michael has Daniel Jones, has Saquon Barkley, has James Conner going, has his defense still open. Nobody in his defense, and I'm projected to lose. And I'm like, hey, that's fine. I know I'm going to lose this game. I know I'm going to lose this week. It's fine. I get out of that baseball game and I look, and I'm projected to win pretty decently. I stayed up and watched that entire Denver Titans game. I went to bed at like 2 in the morning. It came down to the freaking wire. Goskowski could not hit a field goal that I needed him to hit to knock his defense down as he picked up Denver. Man, this it was close all night, but man, this was a terrible matchup. This is a two terrible weeks. I just happened to be on the better end of it. Michael, I feel you. I feel for you because I felt the same way. If I would have lost this, I would have been kicking myself. The only reason that I have even a little bit of relief is that, if you can win with 91 points, you just got to take it.
No, a win's a win.
You just got to take it. But,
Sometimes it's all about the matchup because you play
win
literally
the game.
you play literally anyone else in the league.
Yeah,
You
I
lose.
If anybody
Anyone else.
It just so happened that, the last two fantasy champs go against each other, and it's the two worst weeks that of the season thus far.
Let's do a team breakdown real quick. Let's go Michael's first. All right, so the James Conner injury obviously hurts him a lot. Who does he have on the bench to go in at running back? You have Zach Moss, who did outperform.
Zach Moss had a good week. I'd be comfortable putting him in the lineup.
You do?
He had a touchdown. That's what
I think.
He had 9 rushes for 11 yards.
I think you bump Drake up into that spot, and then you maybe look at one of your 12 tight ends.
Noah Fant, man. Noah Fant.
Yeah, Fant looked good. Maybe you look there.
Cortland Sutton should be back soon. So
and maybe you move Deshaun Jackson out and put him there. Those are two things to consider. But yeah, I think he's a little worried about maybe depth a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say depth. But I think like Will Fuller had a good game. Cooper Kupp, I think he has much better games than 6 points. Barkley should never have that.
I mean, that's the entire matchup right there. That's all you got to say, Saquon Barkley.
And it just shows sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good. Like, when has Saquon ever been under 10 points in fantasy football?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know if he has. I'm sure if we had like an analyst guy, he'd be able to pull that up for us. But let's just say that Saquon goes for his typical like low end 15. You lose the week. It's like, and I'm not sitting here saying you didn't have some guys kind of underperform too, but the number one overall pick gets you 9.6 in week 1. You're very disappointed in it.
Have to be. For my team, dude, I didn't. Yeah, my highest score. I had the highest score at it in this entire matchup at 20.4.
Yeah.
Brian had like 9 guys that outscored my top player, and that was Pat Mahomes. Do I think Pat Mahomes is going to have many 20-point games? No, I don't. I think Pat Mahomes is going to be just fine.
What running back are you going to look at going forward? Because obviously you'll start Henry, but
Henry's staying in. J.K. Dobbins. Again, might give him a shot. Probably this coming week, I'm going Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, just for the PPR.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of work, and they're going to be behind in a lot of games.
Hopefully, Odell and Baker can figure something out.
Got a lot riding on that. DJ Chark, I think he's going to be better. AJ Green could have had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So.
And I think Burrow with him, because I got Tyler Boyd who had 5 point something. So the 2 top receivers off that didn't get over 10 points. We're hoping, me and you both right now, that progresses and that Joe Burrow, who can throw for like 4 touchdowns, can split it between those two. We'd both be happy that way.
Very.
But, yeah, I think that comes with guys, don't forget, we didn't have a preseason. And I think it benefits running backs a little bit more than it does quarterbacks not having this because they're a little fresher. They ain't got beat up on yet. Teams don't know exactly maybe tendencies. Meanwhile, quarterback hasn't seen the speed of the NFL yet.
No.
He hasn't seen the coverages. He hasn't seen a lot of things. So let's be a little patient with Joe Burrow as well.
That's what we talked about earlier with stats. You could tell, 33 passing attempts and 194 yards. They weren't letting him throw down the field. when they finally start to release Joe Burrow and let him be Joe Burrow, yeah, guys like AJ Green are going to start panning out more.
I think this is probably Michael's worst week that he has all season.
Oh yeah, he's not going to have to worry about Barkley. He's not going to have to worry about a lot of his guys. And out of his 4,000 tight ends, he finally knows which one he's going to start.
All right, well let's transition. Are we done with Michael's team? We done with this matchup? Because I think you bring up a good point.
Yeah, I mean
Michael's got 4 tight ends, so
Right.
let's play a little fantasy football fill in the blank. All right, so I'm going to read a question. There's going to be a blank. I want you to fill that blank.
Okay.
Say what?
Okay. So the first question, the tight end that Michael will drop this week is
None.
Oh,
No tight ends get dropped.
no tight ends out of Hayden Hurst, Noah Fant. Obviously, Noah Fant's not getting dropped. Evan Ingram, Mike Gesicki. None of them's getting dropped.
No, Michael Smith is patient.
Okay.
He never panics. Now he gets to week 7, week 8, he might panic, and having to make a rash decision. Loses, if he, God forbid, loses Saquon Barkley for the year. Yeah, he's going to drop. The position he's going to drop, if he has to make a drop, is going to be a tight end.
Has to be.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
Has to be.
But I don't see him dropping any of his tight ends.
Okay. Jake, the tight end that Michael will drop this week is.
His lowest scoring was Ingram, but I don't think it's Ingram. Going against a Pittsburgh team, I thought he had a big catch that got called back on one of them. I can't remember if it was pass interference or holding somewhere, but he got called back. Ingram's a freak. I would be looking down there in Miami, man. Like, Fitzmagic in there. Their offense didn't really look that good. If I was going to drop one, yeah, I'd probably look down in Miami and say I'd get rid of that guy. Maybe go look at replacing with maybe a running back or a receiver there.
Yeah.
I know you want me to shut up about running backs, but I'm just saying if I had to pick one, that would be the one.
I don't want you to shut up.
Because he doesn't want me to keep saying Pittsburgh's running back.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
don't say that.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
I thought you were a Panther
Pick
fan.
up. Man,
What are you wearing a Steelers shirt for?
because I'm going to pick up Benny Snell.
Not
Well, you
anymore.
think
Michael
he's gonna
Smith's
see you
going to
wearing a
out.
shirt
I'm going to
and
pick
think,
up
"I wanna go
Jalen
to
Samuel. I'm putting 30 on Jalen. No. I shouldn't say that either. All right, anyway, so next fantasy football fill in the blank. So if we're looking at free agent acquisitions, blank will be the highest fab acquisition of the week. I'll read that one again. So blank will be the highest fab accusation.
Accusation. He did it.
Snell.
How much is he going to go for? Tell me that then. How much is he going to go
Well,
for?
you already dropped the $30 mark, so I'm guessing.
About $30?
I guess
$30
somebody's.
seems about right.
I think I'd go. Well, if people listen, and some people are going to go 33, 34. So JT, you better splurge and go at least 37 now.
Dude, now I've got to.
You done screwed yourself.
myself.
Look at his face because he had $30 on
I'm
Snell
putting 31
already.
on right now.
I just put 33.
All right, so you think Snell will be the highest fab
Well, yeah.
acquisition?
Some people are
Should
going to look
be,
at. Some
but
people are
yeah.
going to look at Hines in Indianapolis, which I understand. He had a good game, but I don't know. I mean, we'll kind of see there.
Right now on Yahoo Fan. Well, let me get yours. So blank will be the highest fab acquisition.
I agree. It's going to be a running back.
Okay. Who is it?
Is Snell, or I think it's a stretch. It could be Peterson.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, looking at all right. So how much would Peterson go for in your mind? Not what you would put on. What do you think Peterson would go for?
I feel like, well, I mean, it's the thing. If everybody thinks about picking up Peterson because everybody's thinking they're going to pick up Snell, Peterson
True.
goes
Good point,
for,
good point.
because he's going to fall behind Snell, people think it's still Peterson, $10.
Okay. Snell is the most added player in Yahoo.
Who's the backup tight end for?
See,
Philly.
that's the guy that I think
who?
that's who
Philly.
it should be.
Philly?
Is it
Dallas Goddard?
Goddard.
Yeah, Goddard is
He's a free agent.
Goddard's a free agent.
For
Goddard-
those that had no tight end play, and I think we
Yeah.
mentioned a couple
We all
of
know
them.
Michael's going to go try and pick him
I
up.
think it was Brooch.
So Broach could use a tight. There's a couple teams that could use a tight end. Yeah, Dallas
Maybe
Goddard.
if,
Dallas Goddard could be that guy.
if Kittle doesn't.
All right, so we've been talking about him this whole time.
Baker Mayfield?
No, blank will be the starting running back in Week 10 for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Week 10,
Week 10,
it'll be James Conner.
James Conner. So James Conner recovers.
Yeah,
keeps
Snell's,
the job.
I mean, he's going to be, that's the thing. Snell's going to be the big ad, but it's James Conner's. It's his backfield.
I think James Conner probably is the better running back, but I'm just looking at what Pittsburgh's done in the history. It's like they have one get hurt and everyone's like, what are they going to do now? And this guy comes in and has success. And then they're like, we can't put him back on the bench. So just for the sake of it, to not just say James Conner with Brown, I'm going to go Snell. Just because I've seen it happen in Pittsburgh like that before.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make some good points. All right, so let's go to.
You're not going to pick, or you're just trying to hold your Snell comment back so no one. Why?
Commenting.
You can let it out. You've already let Snell drop 50.
Okay,
if they're listening this deep into the podcast, they've already committed to it.
Here's my narrative. I think Big Ben. So at the end of the year at the Super Bowl, there's always a big narrative. There's narratives for every team.
Yeah.
Because again, like there's a journey it takes to get the Super Bowl. I think Pittsburgh is maybe my dark horse to win the Super Bowl, and I'll tell you why.
Super dark.
It is a dark horse, but I'll tell you why. Again, strong defense. I think Big Ben goes out with a Super Bowl win.
Wow.
He is named the MVP of the Super Bowl. He's won 2 Super Bowls, and he's not been the MVP of either. I think this all puts it together. Big Ben retires, and I think they're going to have a formidable running game. And I just can't. It's not that I don't. I like James Conner. I really do like James Conner. I just don't feel good about him already being banged up week 1. I just do not feel good about that. So,
especially with that $37 you're about to put on Snell.
So I do feel. I'm on Bentley Snell, man. I'm on the Snell train. The snail trail. I'm on the snail trail, baby.
I like that.
I'm on the snail trail.
Took you a second to get to it, but I like it.
Yeah. Snail train just didn't ring.
No,
snail trail, that's something. It's
a slow path, but
it doesn't matter. All right, so let's look at another team with high expectations. So I told you my dark horse. A lot of people's favorite this year to win the Super Bowl, or at least be the probably the most impressive team in the NFC. Tampa Bay Bucks. So fill in the blank, Brian. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win blank games.
10.
Do they make the playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Jake, same question.
I don't know if they'll sweep Atlanta. I feel good about at least one game out of Atlanta. The home field just being gone makes such a big impact that they probably will sweep Carolina. I mean, Carolina's offense looked good, but God, that defense is bad. So there's 3. Could they get New Orleans coming back? I don't know. Maybe with Michael Thomas back and healthy, I don't feel very good. They didn't play a good game, and they still won easily.
Yeah.
Who does the NFC South play? Other division. Do y'all know some of the matchups there?
AFC West.
I mean, no, because they played. Carolina just got done with Oakland.
Yeah. So they didn't get done with Oakland.
Or Las Vegas, excuse me. So that means they got to play Vegas. They got to play
the Chargers,
Chiefs,
and Broncos.
You're in the
NFC. There, Slick.
I'm in the NFC.
So all right.
I don't think they can beat Sandy or.
So you want their schedule?
I don't really.
Schedule?
Yeah.
You want their schedule? I'll give you their schedule. Let's see. Let's find. Oh, I can go right here. O.J. Howard.
Keep looking at that while I say this one thought. A lot of their defense has kind of been made up about guys who are a little bit older. And that.
We're talking about Tampa?
Yeah. I mean, even getting Sue, 7 years ago, Sue, that's a huge piece. But, Sue's been cut for a reason. Not only is it like drama that he can sometimes bring, he's got a little older.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. Joints get a little worn down. So
let's go. Let's look at this. So, Carolina week 2.
Win.
For Carolina or Tampa?
No, Tampa.
Oh. Tampa wins week 2.
Denver week 3.
Why are you using my bets?
Denver week 3.
Is it at Denver? At Carolina?
At Denver. I'll give you that.
Yeah, Denver.
At Denver.
Loss.
Home against the Chargers.
Win.
Yeah, they'll beat the Chargers.
At Chicago.
They'll beat Chicago.
At Chicago? I'm going to take Chicago.
Are you counting up how many wins you got?
Yeah, I got 2 right now.
Okay. All right. Home against Green Bay.
They'll lose to Green Bay.
They'll lose.
At Las Vegas.
Win.
Yeah, they'll beat Vegas.
At New York Giants.
Win.
They'll beat the Giants.
Home against New Orleans.
They'll
Loss.
lose.
At Carolina.
Win.
Yeah, they'll win.
Home against the Rams.
I don't know.
That's a
I'm
tough-
gonna
I
say
think that's a
I'm gonna
tough
say
one.
loss.
Nah, they'll beat the Rams.
Okay. I think that's a tough
Aaron
one.
Donald getting after him is gonna make the difference.
All right. Week 12, home against KC.
Loss.
How much more time?
Yeah, no, their defense can't beat Kansas City.
Okay. All right. By week 13, Minnesota at home. Week 14.
Win.
That's a loss.
Atlanta at Atlanta.
Loss.
At Atlanta?
Yes.
Nah, Matt Ryan plays good whenever he has to play big games at home.
At Detroit.
Win.
They'll beat Detroit.
And home against Atlanta.
Win. I had him at
Yeah.
9.
You had them at 9?
I didn't keep count.
I think Brian had.
Well, you
like,
said 10.
I said
so
10.
we'll
It was
do
over 10. I think
Okay.
I had one.
All right, so I think one last thing on Tampa Bay is that we all thought that I shouldn't say all, but I think one of the big takeaways we have in the draft was like Tom Brady went a little earlier than we was anticipating.
Yeah.
And Gronk went a little earlier than we was anticipating. Now, here's my question for you guys. We got 2 more fill in the blanks. Let's see. The player you regret passing on in the draft after week 1 is
Juju.
Juju.
Yeah, he's one.
Fourth round.
Part of me wishes I don't remember if Mark Andrews would have fell back to me. I kind of wish on
We can
that
look at
one.
the draft results. We can pull that up.
That one would have been close. Mark Andrews looked good.
So, Jake, Mark Andrews went in the 5th round.
Yeah,
He went in the 5th round.
I took Kittle in the 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd gone receiver there and come back and got Mark Andrews in the 4th. I'd have felt pretty good about that.
Okay. Brian?
Taking Godwin over Juju.
Taking Godwin over Juju. So, Juju, you both big on Juju.
Yeah,
Shouldn't have-
Juju's going to have a good
yeah.
year.
Well, I mean,
It depends on Ben.
Yeah.
It does
very
depend on
much
Ben.
so. Very
Depends
much
on him a lot.
Very much so. All right. So,
what about Hopkins?
that's a good point.
How do we skip out on the fact that Arizona?
He won't be as good in Arizona. He's not got Deshaun Watson.
Who said this?
Who said this?
People.
So
I
people
thought-
related to us.
No, not your mama, not your daddy, not your brother.
It's not that kind of related.
It's a night that I'm glad Andrew isn't here because he'd argue with me on this one. But in terms of fantasy production, Kyler Murray is better than Deshaun Watson in fantasy.
I think Deshaun Watson's a little overrated.
Oh God, Andrew's gonna flip out on you. Yes,
It's not that I think he's.
he just got paid to be the second highest player in the NFL, and he's not.
I
He's
think
not.
he's good, and maybe part of it's offensive line because he looks like he's running for his life half the time.
Sometimes.
But
He is
sometimes,
running for his life.
but other
He holds
times-
on to the ball too
Yeah,
long.
he does. He does.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so my last, and this is the stat of the night, the stat of the week. So I asked you guys this a little bit earlier, and hopefully you haven't looked this answer up. But last night, Steven Gostkowski, one of the best kickers of the past, 10 years at least.
Yeah, he's up there in the
Yeah.
Terry category.
So Gostkowski missed. He went 1 for 4 last night with a missed
that one was
extra
a big
point.
one.
Yeah, it was. It was a game winner. But he missed. He went 1 for 4, missed 3 field goals, and missed 1 extra point. Missed 4, look at it that way, missed 4 field goals. But we're not going to count that. We're not going to look at the extra point. The stat that I have for you is only talking about field goals, not extra points. So, question I asked, the Tennessee Titans made blank amount of field goals last season. This is our stat of the week. So, how many field goals did the Tennessee Titans make last year?
39.
39. Brian.
I feel like you wouldn't ask if it wasn't high.
Brian.
33. I'm still going high.
So,
Who won?
a
Just say that.
combination. So, you said 39. You said 33.
Yeah.
Let me read this stat for you. The Tennessee Titans finished the 2019 regular season as the worst team in the NFL at kicking field goals. A combination of Caro Santos, Cody Pocky, and Ryan Suckup went 8 for 18 on field goal attempts, the worst in the NFL.
You know who they need back?
Who?
You don't remember their old kicker that you used to be obsessed with when we used to draft kickers?
He died, right?
But
He
it couldn't
died?
do much worse than
This
what they
couldn't
did.
have ended on a worse note. Yes, in a car accident, man.
No.
Like 5 years ago. Rob Baronis, R.I.P. Yeah, best kicker
Rob
Titans ever had.
Barona. Yeah.
All right.
You
Really
need a minute?
dampened the mood. Really
Well,
dampened the mood.
Sorry,
We're gonna
guys.
have to cut this.
All
into
right,
the
yeah.
podcast.
So that's a wrap. We'll be back Saturday morning with a little week 2 preview. Until then, Jake,
Rest in peace, Rob.
any last words, bro?
I don't know what to say.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. We're
Cincinnati needs
out.
to bring back Joe Simpson.
All right, we're out. We're out. We'll call it a night on that one. All right. Good luck this week. Nobody pick up Benny Snell because I'm on the snail trail. All right.
You better spend over $37.